Part 17. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens. Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 161. Click. There was a violent shattering sound. Under this sword, the mountains and rivers were turbulent, the sun and the moon changed color, and it seemed that even time and space would be pierced by this sword. As the target of this sword, the ancestor could not avoid it at all, so he could only use all possible means to barely resist it. However, even so, he still couldn't stop it and was penetrated by a sword. Puff. The immortal ancestor spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his breath quickly became weak. It was obvious that he had been severely injured. However, true monarch Lyasu didn't care what happened to the immortal ancestor. He threw away the peach blossom branch and picked up his disciple. True monarch Lyasu tapped his toes on the ground, and the Wanli peach blossom bridge appeared in the sky again. Just like that, the two people left quietly and soon disappeared. Master, master. Being held by her master, Wan Qing was wearing a fiery red wedding dress and curled up happily in her master's arms. She greedily absorbed the master's breath, but she just called her master and refused to come down. Suddenly, Wan Qing's eyes widened, pretending to be cute, and asked curiously, "Master, look at us now, it looks like we are married, right? So, am I considered master's wife now?" As soon as he finished speaking, true Lord Lyasu struck his disciple on the head with a violent shock, and said, "Be honest, master hasn't taught you a lesson about this matter, how dare you still act nonsense? I didn't expect it to be so controversial, so I'll send it out tomorrow in advance to clarify that this is not the end of the simulation, it's just a recycling of King Di's foreshadowing." Volume 1 Chapter 153 The beautiful woman finally realized what it was like to be her apprentice in the past. Although it was a lesson, Wan Qing still heard a lot of favor from her master's words. Sticking out her tongue, Wan Qing stopped talking, and Xian huddled in her master's arms and closed her eyes. As for the Changsheng family, only the dumbfounded people were left at this moment. True monarch Lyasu stepped on the peach blossom bridge and single-handedly defeated the immortal family. He gained enlightenment during the war, broke through the barrier of death, and turned death into life. After this time, Lyasu Zhenjun used the Changsheng family as a stepping stone to achieve the supreme prestige of King Di, attracting praise and awe from the world. Outside the room, ever since Suliang was taken away by Wan Qing, Tan Qinjia and Qin Benjiao had followed him here, but they didn't dare to enter rashly, so they had to wait here eagerly. Looking at the closed door, Qin Benjiao's eyes widened with a look of cuteness, and a trace of worry flashed in her eyes. Being taken away by such a mature big sister, Sulang would definitely be subjected to such and such things, right? Sulang seems to be in a very bad situation, what should we do? After thinking hard, there was still no countermeasure. Qin Benjiao had no choice but to hug her master's arm with tears in her eyes and said softly, "Master, please save Sulang. Sulang must be in a very bad situation." Looking at his worried disciple, Tan Qinjia, as the master, had the duty to comfort his disciple and said, "Don't be afraid, Yao don't worry, I have a way for you as a master." Upon hearing this, Qin Benjiao's eyes immediately glowed with admiration. "Master, you are the most powerful." "That's natural." Tan Qinjia nodded, and then, under the admiring gaze of her disciple, she straightened her face, returned to her cold and arrogant queen appearance, and struck decisively. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door, and before Tan Qinjia could speak, the door was suddenly opened, and Wan Qing walked out of it. And the moment I saw Wan Qing. However, Tan Qinjia changed from the cold and arrogant queen she used to be, and instantly became submissive. She put her hands in front of her body and kept struggling. At this moment, Tan Qinjia showed a rare nervous look. And immediately after, under Wan Qing's gaze, Tan Kinja's body trembled and she shouted honestly, "Auntie! Auntie!" Feeling the sight from her aunt, Tan Kinja felt like crying but had no tears. "It's a shame, okay. Just now, I had a cold and arrogant look on my face and wanted to regain my place and return to Ailiang, but now, I started to call my aunt tremblingly. This is too unfair." When she heard the familiar voice, Wan Qing glanced sideways at Tan Kinja and nodded. "That's right. She is indeed Tan Kinja's aunt." After a 1,000-year promise, Wan Qing lived a second life with all her memories and even her appearance remained the same. In this life, she happened to be at Tan Kinja's house and became Tan Kinja's aunt. From this point of view, it is considered a good fate. Looking at the aunt in front of her, Tan Kinja swallowed and almost wanted to run away. No matter what kind of cold and arrogant queen she is outside, she can't change the fact that she is afraid of her aunt. No, to be precise, the Wan Qing in front of her was an existence that Tan Kinja had stayed away from since she was a child. If you can avoid contact, don't contact. If you see it from a distance, you will run away. And at this moment, Wan Qing folded her hands and put them in front of her belly, with a calm expression, gorgeous clothes and a detached and elegant look. She nodded and said, "Kinja, long time no see. I didn't expect you to come to such a small place. Many, thank you for your concern, aunt." Tan Kinja smiled awkwardly and said reluctantly, "Care." She raised her eyebrows, and the next second, Wan Qing's detached and elegant look suddenly disappeared. Holding her niece tightly in her arms, Wan Qing began to care about her. Her delicate hands moved up and down Tan Kinja's body, not even letting go of the proud peak. While getting started, Wan Qing said, "Hey, Kinja, your figure is quite developed. Although it's not as good as my aunt, you still have a bit of your mother's style. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Why do you have such an expression? You must know that this is my aunt's concern for your niece. Otherwise, if it were someone else, what would I care about her?" "Yes, aunt." Tan Kinja gritted her teeth and endured it, with a humiliated expression on her face, and she was almost crying in her heart. "My aunt seems serious, but in fact she is too casual with people close to her. In the past, she was a bully at home, causing chaos in the family. Unexpectedly, after so many years of not seeing each other, my aunt has not changed at all. Woo-hoo-hoo, aunt, you'd better leave quickly, my niece doesn't really want to see you. Oh, by the way, before you leave, give Sulang back to me." In the room, the picture shattered, the darkness in front of him receded, and the new stage of simulation ended. Suliang slowly opened his eyes and woke up. Sitting up straight and rubbing the sides of his forehead, Suliang fell into deep thought. This time in The Sims, he discovered an unexpected connection. The inheritance of the Azure Emperor and the one in The Sims are actually the same. After I bloom, hundreds of flowers will be killed. This is my own stunt to become famous in the life simulation. So, The Sims, are they real? Although Suliang had doubts in the past, after all, there was no corresponding connection between the things in The Sims and reality, so this doubt was not that deep. However, now, things in The Sims have their counterparts in reality. After thinking about this, Suliang asked, "Does The Sims really exist?" But Suliang's answer was systematic silence. Seeing this, Suliang not only did not give up, but became even more suspicious. After carefully considering everything about The Sims and reality, Suliang gradually felt more and more that there was something weird about The Sims. There was a huge secret hidden in it, but there was no intention of telling him. But then, when thinking about the ending of this simulated life, Suliang became even more puzzled. Up to now, The Sims' life has been divided into 2 stages, but it has no intention of ending yet. Why is this simulation career so long? Although the time is not as long as the span of 300 years in the first time, There are too many scenes and plots, right? Sensing Suliang's doubts, the system said, this simulation is a special simulation and is naturally different from normal simulations. The host's question is not unanswerable. The only requirement is that the complete sims is completed, or the host reaches the 9-star Cao Thief achievement and has full authority before it can be answered. This answer is the system's only explanation. If the host still has questions, please refer to this answer. Hearing the sound of the system, Suliang couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Well, I should have guessed that the system would answer like this. Anyway, since the system doesn't answer, let's not think too much about it for the time being. It's still a long way to get the 9-star Cao Thief achievement. Among them, I don't know how many times I have to go through the sim's life. Perhaps, in this, you can find the answer. Thinking of this, Suliang let out a long breath and relaxed his mind. Can be followed immediately. Congratulations to the host, for completing this stage of simulation. You will receive the reward, Kingdi Dai Wei. The words have fallen. The power of the Qing Emperor, whose sword tore apart the world and seemed to penetrate even time and space, appeared on Suliang in an instant. See. Suliang's appearance has not changed, but there is a sense of aloofness and indifference about him. He is like a peerless strongman standing high on the top of the world. Looking down the mountain at a glance, they are all insignificant ants. Of course, there is no need to care too much. Suliang is still the same Suliang, but every move he makes, even a look in his eyes, is full of majesty, as if the Qing Emperor has reappeared. And at this time, Wan Qing, who had just returned from playing with her niece, shivered instinctively when she saw Suliang. This feeling is so familiar, it's like Master is right in front of me, it almost made me call out Master. How is this going? Could it be that Master's consciousness has recovered? After blinking, Wan Qing cautiously asked, Suliang, do you still remember who I am? Hearing this, Suliang said in confusion, Master, what's wrong with you? Why do you ask so suddenly? Seeing this, Wan Qing breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was ensured that the master had indeed not fully recovered his memory. I almost thought my plan couldn't be implemented. Taking a deep breath and looking at Suliang, Wan Qing's outrageous ambition appeared in her mind again. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 162. Now that I have found the master, I naturally have to take advantage of the opportunity to educate the master before he recovers and educate him into an obedient disciple. In this way, we won't repeat the mistakes of thousands of years ago, right? Thinking in her mind, the rare playful and cute look on Wan Qing's face gradually turned serious and cold. A pair of beautiful eyes reflected a touch of sadness. That year, she made a mistake. She acted in an old-fashioned drama on her own initiative, and accidentally caused her master to reincarnate from the dead. Afterwards, she was taught a lesson by her master and she didn't dare to sit down to eat for a month. But 100 years later, that idiot master actually. Between thoughts, a deep feeling of loneliness appears around this royal sister, which makes people feel pity when they see her. Master, education is about to begin. Looking at Suliang, Wan Qing murmured softly in her heart. Walking out of the room, Tan Qingji calmly moved her steps lightly, put her hands in front of her, looked elegant and calm, pretending to have solved the problem, and said to her apprentice, Okay, Yao, don't worry. The problem has been solved, Aoyang will be fine. Hearing this, Qin Binjao wished she could turn into stars, looked at her master, and said in admiration, Master is so amazing. He can solve such difficult things. He is indeed Yao's master. Indeed, in Qin Binjao's view, that royal sister is a powerful being with unfathomable strength and cultivation. At least, he should be much stronger than master, right? But even so, the master was still able to settle this matter. The master's skills are too strong, right? Seeing the admiration of her apprentice, Tan Kinja blinked and took the opportunity to trick her and said, "In that case, from now on, you can just call me sister. Although it is indeed a disadvantage to be a teacher like this, who makes you my apprentice? We are all a family, it's okay to suffer some losses, right? But I didn't expect it." When talking about this sensitive topic, Qin Benjao changed her usual cute and silly look and corrected her seriously, "Master, you are wrong. You should have called me sister, and I was the one who came first. On this critical issue, even if you are my master, and even if Yao'er admires the master very much, Yao'er will not compromise at all. Master, just give up on this. Besides, master, didn't you call me before? Since you have called me, it should be settled like this, and it cannot be changed in the future." Hearing this, Tan Kinja was speechless for a while. Yao'er, how come you see this issue so clearly? Where has your usual cute and silly energy gone? Please use it as a teacher. Doesn't your attitude mean that I can't deceive you at all? Recalling the previous scene where she called her apprentice sister under the pressure of Dao Zimoyi and the transcendent strongman, Tan Kinja felt very embarrassed. He actually called his apprentice sister, whom he almost raised and brought up, and was remembered by his apprentice. This is basically the death of the society. How can I have the honor to meet my apprentice in the future? No, it must be changed. Thinking in her heart, Tan Kinja looked serious. Yao'er, this is wrong. You see, my teacher is older than you and is your elder. Although you and I are sisters now, there is no way to let the elders call you. What's the point of my junior sister? As a teacher, I will suffer a lot if I put aside the title of master and let you call me sister. I will already suffer a lot as a teacher. Curling her lips, Qin Benjao said scornfully, "Oh, master, it was you who stole my man. I am so generous and let you stay with Sulang and be my sister. Master, please don't push yourself too far. If you push me hard, believe it or not, I will go to Sulang to make trouble and ask Sulang to leave you." Although she knew that what her apprentice said was just angry words and impossible to do, Tan Kinja still felt a little sad and angry. For such a long time, she has been avoiding her apprentice, and she has been doing extraordinary things to irritate her apprentice. Isn't it just to make herself stay with Liang after the incident is exposed? At the thought of leaving her man, Tan Kinja felt so heartbroken that she couldn't breathe. Then, Tan Kinja looked at Qin Benjao with a hint of gunpowder in her eyes. Facing her master's fighting eyes, Qin Benjao didn't show any fear and glared back decisively. So, naturally, but also very magically, there was a sure field between the master and the disciple. In the eye-to-eye confrontation, Qin Benjao, who was weaker in terms of status and strength, was extremely determined and did not give in at all. Even Tan Kinja found that his apprentice could allow him to stay with Suliang, but in some aspects, he still had unexpected persistence. In the room, Wan Qing sat in front of Suliang, with a calm expression and a majestic demeanor, trying to figure out how to establish the majesty that belonged to the master. After all, you must first let Suliang know how powerful he is, then you can make him bow at your feet and obey your orders. Teaching disciples to practice cultivation is the duty of a teacher and a master. Wan Qing said calmly, "Disciple, tell me. If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask. I will tell you everything I know." These words, coupled with this calm demeanor, made Wan Qing portray herself as an omniscient and omnipotent boss. With master, there is such a benefit. You can ask anything, and all your doubts can be answered. Isn't this great? Listening to his master's words, Suliang blinked and felt a little emotional in his heart. This was the first time that he felt the benefit of having a backer. Apart from anything else, at least in terms of cultivation, there is really no need to worry. Then Suliang immediately asked, Master, my disciple has a martial arts technique called Minghai Giwen. It can be controlled to absorb the spiritual energy of all things around the body and store it in several bodies for one's own use. And the technique developed from this technique, heaven and earth destruction, is to absorb the energy of all things and blast them out with the palm of your hand. After the disciple made improvements, he compressed the energy of all things to a minimum, and the power has improved. However, as the disciple's cultivation level increases, this power is not enough, and it needs to be compressed further. However, the disciple doesn't know how to compress this move to the size of a finger, so he asks the master for advice. As he spoke, Suliang used the double destruction of heaven and earth. After compressing it with all his strength, he showed it to Wanqing, Master, look, my current results are only compressed to the size of a palm. It is difficult to compress it anymore. Watching Suliang perform a whole set of moves, Wanqing felt numb. Such a powerful martial arts technique, you can actually improve it just by being in the dragon transformation realm. This move is already very powerful, but you can improve it to the point of destroying the world. Is there something wrong with your talent? It's too strong? Wanqing couldn't help but complain a few words in her heart, and Wanqing began to carefully observe the characteristics of Suliang Minghai's Giwen. After a moment, she had a realization. Suliang's Minghai Giwen is a sword energy that carries the power of thunder and calamity. If it is struck with one move, it will not destroy the world, but it is still extremely powerful. But even though he was already so powerful, Suliang could still be compressed like this, which almost doubled his power several times. With the current Minghai Giwen alone, it is not a problem for a sword energy to resist another person's move. That's it? It's not enough. It has to be compressed into the size of a finger? Wanqing frowned slightly and scolded, your move is already powerful enough. Your sword energy is not enough to withstand other people's moves? You want to compress it even more. Don't think about it, this is not what you should do in your state. Facing Master's rebuke, Suliang lowered his head, a little disappointed. It seems that Master can't do it either. I didn't expect that even with Master, in the end, I still have to rely on myself, alas. How dare you say I can't do it? Then I'll show it to you. In Wanqing's heart, the spirit of not admitting defeat was immediately aroused. Immediately, Wanqing stood up and walked out of the house while saying, just wait, I will research it for you in one night. About yesterday's plot issues, I would like to apologize in advance. The plot structure is not good. I admit this. I didn't think so much about it at the time, especially because Wanqing involved too many foreshadowing backgrounds and needed to be constructed in several stages. I never thought it would be a poisonous point, and furthermore, it was stuck in the misunderstanding is out of context. Personal review. My original intention is that the plot of The Sims will be more sensational and tragic. The previous two simulations were also based on this. In The Sims, the male protagonist sacrifices for the female protagonist and gains favor. The problem this time, the biggest problem should be getting married is a taboo. I will pay attention to it in the future. Finally, since many people have read my old books, they should be very clear. I don't write about cuckolds' grievances, etc. They are all fun articles. I write about cuckolds who kill the whole family. Please don't speculate on this. It's more fun to be tortured to death. I haven't finished writing, and I'm so frustrated that I can't write. Volume 1 # Chapter 154 Fairy, did Master force you to do so? Time passed, and soon it was dinner time. But tonight's dinner is different from usual. Just because. In order to entertain her boyfriend's Master, Qin Binjao and Tan Kinja arranged a dinner table after discussion and invited Wanqing to entertain her. Although all she could think about was helping Suliang improve the Minghai Giwen and compress the energy of all things, Wan Qing still agreed when she received the dinner invitation. Then, at dinner, Wan Qing sat on the main seat, and directly opposite, Suliang sat. After all the delicacies on the table were served, Qin Binjao and Tan Qinja finally had some free time and planned to serve them. However, just when Qin Binjao wanted to sit next to Suliang. However, Wan Qing stood up and came to Qin Binjao's side. She stretched out her arms and wrapped them around Qin Binjao's waist, pulling her to her side. "You can just sit here." Wan Qing gestured to the position next to her and said calmly. After taking a look at that position, Qin Binjao pouted with tears in her eyes, looking aggrieved and unwilling. It seems that there is no obstacle between Sulang and Sulang in this position, but there is still a large area vacant. Sulang was sitting at the other end of the table. Even if the table was small, there could still be room for 4 or 5 people in the middle. In this case, wouldn't it be impossible to be with Sulang? Qin Binjao wanted to retort, but seeing Wan Qing's calm look, she felt deeply in danger for some reason, so she just gave up and sat down honestly. Immediately afterwards, Wan Qing looked at Tan Qinja and signaled. "Qinja, you also sit on the other side next to me." "Yes." Tan Qinja didn't dare to think as much as her disciples, so she responded obediently, and then sat on the other side of Wan Qing. She was still like Qin Binjao. Although Suliang was beside her, the distance between those 4 or 5 people was as far away as the end of the world. Raising her head and looking at the watery eyes of her apprentice on the other side, Tan Qinja felt even more guilty. "Yao I'm sorry, it's all useless as a teacher. However, I don't dare to resist my aunt as a teacher, Yao just be patient." Then, Suliang, who was at the other end of the table, was so isolated that he couldn't even say a word. He could only look at the image of Lily hugging his cheap master, while he was alone and deserted. Wan Qing, the bully, bullies men and dominates women, and his reputation is well deserved. And the other side. Seeing the 3 women sitting side by side, Tan Qinja felt a little worried. "Myself, my disciple, my aunt. From the looks of it, does this count as 3 generations living under one roof? They obviously look more like 3 sisters." But beside Tan Qinja, Wan Qing confidently took advantage of Qin Binjao. "I saw." Wan Qing hugged Qin Binjao and kept rubbing her face between her silver hair. It wasn't until Qin Binjao started to cry and wanted to struggle but didn't dare, looking aggrieved, that she finally put down her hand and nodded with satisfaction. "Not bad, not bad. She deserves to be called a fairy. This silver hair is comparable to what I have." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 163. Immediately, he leaned back on the chair, hooked his jade fingers on Qin Binjao's chin, and looked at her playfully. Seeing this, Suliang finally couldn't bear it anymore and questioned, "Master, Binjao is my girlfriend, you can't bully her like this." However, unexpectedly, Wan Qing immediately retorted confidently, "Of course I know she is your girlfriend, but you are my apprentice, my apprentice's wife. Is it wrong to respect your master?" "No." Immediately. Regardless of what Suliang was doing, he started bullying his 2 girlfriends in front of Suliang. "I saw." Wan Qing leaned back on the chair, crossed her hands on her chest, and intentionally or unintentionally, she lifted up the pair of overly proud peaks and said calmly, "Binjao, come here, pick up some food for me. Qinja, come here, give me some water." "Yes." The 2 women wanted to cry but did not have any tears. They resisted but did not dare to resist. They just kept picking up vegetables and pouring water. Unexpectedly, Wan Qing just opened her mouth slightly and signaled without saying a word. Seeing this, Tan Kinja and Qin Benjao immediately understood and honestly fed food and water into Wan Qing's mouth. That's right, that's right. I didn't expect that your Tiandao sect would actually have something you can eat. Wan Qing nodded with satisfaction. Besides, you two are quite considerate. Immediately. Suddenly he stretched out his hand, pulled the two women into his arms, and pressed their faces on his pair of overly proud peaks. However, he put his cheek between the two women, rubbing back and forth. You're welcome, this is my reward for you. Award. This is obviously an excuse to post with my two girlfriends. Looking at the appearance of the three girls, Suliang looked a little awkward. Why do I always feel like I'm being tricked by the Minotaur? But Qin Benjao was not surprised at all by this, she just felt that she was used to it. Feeling Wan Qing's every move, Qin Benjao blinked, extremely calm. It feels so familiar, as if I always do these things like this. Hey, by the way, does Master do this every day? If that's the case, then it should be that Sulang's master is doing such a thing to me and his master because of our close cousinship, right? Then there must be no problem, it's normal to do this. On the other side, Tan Kinja really wanted to cry to death. Thinking about the past, I often did this to stimulate my apprentice. Unexpectedly, today, I became the one who was stimulated. It's not that I won't retaliate, the time has not yet come. Woohoo, Yao Master finally understands how you felt back then. Master is sorry for you. After the dinner was over and he returned to the room, Suliang was finally able to rest. Sitting on the chair, Suliang rubbed his forehead and felt a headache. As a master, he is indeed strong, but his temper and personality really make him feel unreliable. Seeing her boyfriend like this, Qin Benjao felt very distressed and decisively stepped forward to comfort him. Holding Suliang in her arms, Qin Benjao pressed Suliang's head on top of her pair of proud peaks, feeling so fierce and heartwarming. Seeing that her boyfriend had a headache, it reminded her of her daily life. Faintly, she felt a sense of resonance with her fellow apprentices. Touching Suliang's head, Qin Benjao comforted her. Suliang, be good, you have to study hard and work hard to improve your cultivation. As for other things, you don't need to care too much. He looks like someone who has experienced a lot and knows a lot. He is so cute and cute. I know. Suliang couldn't help but stretched out his hand, pinched his girlfriend's cheek, and said with a smile, he felt much better. Well, Suliang. Qin Benjao puffed up her cheeks and was pinched by her boyfriend, but she didn't resist. She just looked at him aggrievedly, with a look of being hurt, which was endearing. After a fight, the two of them rested and looked at their boyfriend's face. Qin Benjao suddenly said a fatal topic, Suliang, it's time for us to discuss the matter between you and Master. This. Suliang hesitated for a moment, but still didn't say anything, only feeling full of guilt in his heart. After all, he was with his girlfriend's master, and he felt sorry for his girlfriend. If he was beaten and scolded by her, it would calm her down, and it would be what he deserved. But then, he heard Qin Benjao say, did Master force you? Ah! Qin Benjao's sudden words caught Suliang off guard. Why did my sister force me? Speaking of which, it was me who pushed it the first time, right? Although my sister is powerful, majestic, and like a queen, if she were to take the initiative to push him, wouldn't it be too difficult for her? Certainly. That time last night, it was indeed her initiative. Just when Suliang was confused, he saw Qin Benjao continuing to analyze seriously, Suliang, you don't have to defend the master. What kind of person is the master? As the master's disciple, I am really too clear. According to master's character, if you don't like it, you can't force it, even if it's force. If she hadn't taken the initiative, how could you have succeeded, Suliang? Even if you are drunk, Master will not let Sulang succeed in the slightest, let alone like today, always defending Sulang and always looking like he wants to stay by Sulang's side. Hearing this, Sulang felt a little bit shocked. It turns out that it was my sister who allowed me to do whatever she wanted. Is that why I can do whatever I want? However, if you think about it carefully, it is indeed the case. With the strength of my sister who has few opponents in the immortal realm, but her extremely proud character, if she had not taken the initiative, or even if she was willing, nothing would have happened between me and her. What? Seeing her boyfriend's expression, which seemed lonely and aggrieved, Chin Benjeo was sure that she was wrong, and she became even more convinced of her guess. Snort. With a snort, Chin Benjeo was a little aggrieved. Master is really going too far. He actually took the initiative to force Sulang without considering my and Sulang's ideas. Phew, I'm so angry. Recalling the jokes made by her master before, such as "don't regret it," Chin Benjeo had a clear understanding in her heart. Okay, so master, you have already had your eye on my man, right? Huh, luckily I still believe in master and feel that master must be doing it for my own good. Well, I'm so angry. Just when Chin Benjeo was aggrieved, Sulang held Chin Benjeo's hand and took the initiative to apologize. Benjeo, in comparison, I shouldn't be bothered, and I shouldn't take action against my girlfriend's master. If you are angry, just be angry with me. If you are really angry, beat me or scold me, I deserve it. I don't want you to be unhappy because of my mistakes. Sulang, you fool. Touching her boyfriend's face softly, Chin Benjeo showed a gentle smile and said softly, "It's not my fault, Lang Jun, don't worry, Lang Jun Yao is not angry or unhappy." Immediately. But he suddenly used force, pinched Sulang's face, and said reproachfully, "Sulang, you are too kind. It is not your fault, but you blame yourself. Kindness is naturally a good thing, but Sulang, you are so kind. I am worried that after you leave the sect, you will be in danger because of your kindness." Listening to his girlfriend's sincere words, Sulang was speechless. "I don't have it. I'm not kind at all. Hey, Benjeo, what I say is the truth. You believe me, believe me. I don't have it." Sulang spread his hands and said helplessly. However, Chin Benjeo was not aware of Sulang's real thoughts at all. She still looked cute and made a cute expression that I know, which made Sulang even more speechless. You know a hammer, but you are obviously completely wrong. But knowing is knowing, Chin Benjeo is still angry in her heart. With master, you can. After all, Sulang was so powerful that he alone was no match for him. Every time he rolled his eyes and stuck out his tongue, he begged for mercy before being let go. However, he couldn't satisfy Sulang. Sooner or later, he would have to find a helper. But master's behavior of stealing food is absolutely intolerable. You must take revenge on master. Aju. In her room, Tan Kinja suddenly sneezed, then raised her head and rubbed her nose in confusion. I don't know why, but I always feel like something bad is going to happen. Tan Kinja murmured softly, looking confused. Could it be an illusion? Time passed quickly, and the next morning came. In the room assigned to Wan Qing, who had been busy all night, suddenly opened her eyes and nodded with satisfaction. After working on it all night, I finally figured out the secret method of compression. Hum, Sulyang, you thought you gave me a problem, but you didn't expect that this turned into an opportunity for me, right? Next, the plan to establish master's prestige can begin again. My dear disciple, just watch. Being a teacher is to start from the place where you are most confident, to accomplish what you have been unable to accomplish for countless hours, in one night, to completely defeat your self-confidence and make you worship me. In this way, This education can be carried out easily. So, don't blame me. Putting away her thoughts, Wan Qing stood up, carefully selected a set of clothes, and dressed up. I saw. Wan Qing is dressed in pure white with a slit, her beautiful face is filled with a cool and calm look, her slender legs are wrapped in black stockings, one is black and the other is white, the contrast is strong and even more eye-catching. In addition, under the pair of loose robes, there is a gap that is pushed up by the overly proud peaks. One look at it will make people unable to help but worship under the black silk jade feet. This outfit, worn on Wan Qing, should obviously be extremely dignified, but it turned out to be particularly charming. Dignity and charm, these two completely contradictory feelings merge into one in Wan Qing, adding a bit of charm. Even Sul Yang, who had seen a lot and was used to seeing many different beauties, couldn't help but be stunned for a moment when he saw Wan Qing looking like this. But soon, Sul Yang came back to his senses, saluted respectfully and shouted, "Disciple Sul Yang, pay homage to the master." However, facing the disciple's greetings and salutes, Wan Qing was extremely cold. She turned away and gave Sul Yang a cold treatment. Volume 1 Chapter 155 Qualitative Test. Wan Qing's mental breakdown. Disciple, is there something that makes master dissatisfied? After blinking, Sul Yang asked in confusion. Haha, how can you greet master like this? The etiquette is all wrong. Wan Qing said dissatisfiedly, come, let me show you how to greet the master. I'm talking and you are doing it. Now, raise one arm first. This time, Sul Yang was even more confused. He had no idea what Wan Qing wanted to do, but he still raised his arm honestly. Well, raise your other arm. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 164. Wan Qing continued. Sul Yang obeyed the instructions and raised another arm. However, under the suspicious gaze of Sul Yang with his arms wide open, Wan Qing suddenly stood up and actually threw herself into Sul Yang's arms, hugging Sul Yang tightly. When master and disciple greet each other, they should hug each other. Wan Qing nuzzled into Sul Yang's arms, while speaking very matter-of-factly and confidently. Hey, where are the disciples who want to say hello to master and want a hug? Especially when we are of different genders, this is even more inappropriate. Master, our sect has some weird rules. Feeling the soft and delicate body in his arms, Sul Yang felt even more uncomfortable. Disciple, do you remember our master's way of saying hello? She let go of Sul Yang with some reluctance, and Wan Qing's expression returned to calmness, as if she had just demonstrated how to greet Sul Yang. Master, my disciple understands. The corner of Sul Yang's mouth couldn't help but twitch, but he still said respectfully. Even though this so-called way of greeting made him feel full of flaws, after all, it was a request personally spoken by his cheap master. How could he not comply with it? Certainly. Sul Yang also feels that this weird way of greeting is very profitable. Wan Qing nodded, satisfied, you can teach me. Is this a coward teachable? Master, your requirements for your disciples are too low. Sul Yang felt like something was stuck in his throat again. He had so many bad things in his heart that he didn't know where to start, so he simply said nothing. Yesterday, the question you asked me about being a teacher was nothing more than that. It was really not that difficult. Wan Qing changed the topic and suddenly said calmly, oh, when I went back last night, I just studied it for a moment and created the so-called compression method. This method is not just your kind of method of all things qi, even true energy, can be compressed. Disciple, just watch. I will demonstrate it to you again. Say it. Wan Qing stretched out her slender hand, and huge amounts of true energy surged out of her body and instantly gathered in her hand, forming a huge sphere with a diameter of nearly 1 meter. Immediately, under Suliang's gaze, Wan Qing suddenly held her hand empty, and a mysterious force emerged instantly, quickly wrapping the huge mass of true energy and starting to compress it to the extreme. Just in the blink of an eye, the spherical primeval mass, which was nearly 1 meter in diameter, was actually compressed into an object the size of a finger. From it, Suliangnan felt the aura of destruction that was like destroying the heaven and earth, which was horrifying. "Watch it." At this time, Wan Qing said softly, and then flicked out the compressed true energy with her fingers. Boom! After a loud roar, smoke and dust spread everywhere. When the smoke and dust dissipated, Suliang looked around and his pupils shrank. I saw. A huge deep hole with a diameter of about 1 meter appeared in the place where the compressed true energy had been attacked. Looking into it from above, it is bottomless, and you can still vaguely hear the sound of rushing water. How deep is this? Moreover, this is because Wan Qing restrained her power and caused it to explode in the next direction. The effect was already so amazing. If it had not been restrained, this area would have been razed to the ground. This lethality is really too astonishing. At this time, Wan Qing breathed a sigh of relief and said, "My master's true energy is a little stronger, so it has such an amazing effect. With your current cultivation level, you don't have to worry about the effect being too good and accidentally injuring others." "Disciple, my teacher is asking you, do you want to learn this move?" After hearing this, Suliang said decisively, "Master, I think so." "Okay, since you want to learn, I will explain it to you as a teacher." Wan Qing nodded and explained, "This move is to use the power of the mind to penetrate it, find the gaps between the energies, and use them to fill them to achieve the purpose of compression. It sounds like I have seen it, but it takes a lot of energy. The spirit is quite high. The key point of this move is the control and concentration of the power. Otherwise, if you are not careful, it will be backlashed and you will hurt yourself instead of hurting others. So, you still need to practice before learning this trick, otherwise, if something goes wrong, it will be too late." "But I didn't expect it." Facing the master's words, Suliang shook his head decisively and said with great confidence, "Master, this training is not necessary. The disciple's control and concentration are still very good. At least, he can definitely satisfy the master's requirements, compress the requirements of the secret method." "Oh." Wan Qing raised her eyebrows, narrowed her eyes, and looked at Suliang. After looking at Suliang for a long time, she couldn't see anything showing off, so she simply said, "Since you are confident, I will test it for you. If it is possible, my teacher will naturally not restrict you anymore, but if it is not possible, you should train your teacher well." "Yes, master." Suliang agreed immediately. "Ha, I actually agreed, which is great." Seeing her apprentice agree, Wan Qing chuckled, her eyes flashing with some inexplicable meaning. Immediately afterwards, before Suliang could react, she stood up and came to Suliang's side. As she walked, she said calmly, "This training is not difficult at all. It's just a qualitative test. I want you to be here as a teacher amid distractions. You have to concentrate on one thing and not be disturbed. As long as you make any changes, it will not be considered as passing the test. And only if you pass this test can my master teach you the secret method of compression. Otherwise, you can continue to train with my master." "Yes." Suliang agreed again. "What's the point of a mere qualitative test? Not worth mentioning at all." Until this moment, Suliang was still full of confidence. Immediately afterwards, Wan Qing continued, "And the person who is disturbing you, is your teacher." After finishing her words, Wan Qing looked at Suliang with an inexplicable meaning in her eyes. But at this moment, Suliang no longer cared about Wan Qing's situation. Listening to his master's words, Suliang blinked, feeling a sense of déjà vu, as if someone had done this kind of thing with him. After thinking about it carefully, Suliang immediately realized, isn't this what her sister often does? Before my relationship with my sister was made public, my sister had been doing this kind of thing to test her determination and prevent herself from being seduced by other fairies. And now, Master also wants to do this kind of thing. Blinking his eyes, Suliang looked at the Master in front of him and compared it with his sister. After a moment, Suliang shook his head. It was impossible that his master was also greedy for him. No, it won't be this result. But think about my first two simulation partners, one is my sister and the other is my girlfriend. They have reconciled their yin and yang countless times. Moreover, in the process of getting along, these two people are the ones who take the initiative. With all the facts in front of him, Suliang really had no confidence in his doubts. After all, the simulated objects are all Cao thieves? But when he thought about this, Suliang suddenly woke up. No, this is very wrong. Now I have begun to degenerate. Sister, at that time, I still wanted to refuse at first, but what about now? I can't learn to reject it at all. This is not good, this is not good. While thinking about it, Suliang calmed down and looked at his master. Master must be doing this for his own good. I cannot judge Master with such thoughts. But when Suliang had just put away all his thoughts, the next second, reality slapped him hard on the face. Disciple. There was suddenly a hint of tenderness in Wan Qing's voice, and she moved closer to Suliang. Her soft and hot body was pressed against Suliang's body, constantly rubbing up and down and left and right. The pair of proud peaks squeezed Suliang's body tightly, so majestic that they even created a gap that could not be closed between them. Not only that, Wan Qing's beautiful face was almost right in front of Suliang's eyes, and her warm breath hit Suliang's face with a hint of sweetness. This is exactly the same as my sister's training method? At this moment, Suliang was a little confused. She just thought that her master would not be greedy for her body, but in the blink of an eye, she used the same training method as her sister. Who can reason with this? Looking at his master, he saw that his master was dressed in a plain white Taoist robe. On that beautiful face, a holy color appeared, and there was a trace of charm mixed in it. Charm and dignity coexisted, but they were perfectly compatible. Let such a pure-hearted lady sharpen your Taoist heart? Master, you are too confident in your disciple? I don't know when, the black silk covering Wan Qing's slender legs disappeared, and a pair of slender and straight snow-white legs were exposed in front of her. When she moved with the slits of the robe, they were looming, which was simply breathtaking. Wan Qing's hair was messy between her temples, and her purple hair was scattered on her beautiful face, adding a hint of hazy charm. With this charming and enchanting temperament, even if she is a woman here, I am afraid she will be instantly attracted by her, and she will fall under Wan Qing's beautiful snow-white legs wrapped in white Taoist robes. Despite this, Wan Qing still said to Suliang, Disciple, you can practice your sword in peace and don't worry about being a teacher. You have to remember, if you are disturbed by your teacher in the slightest, you will not pass this test. After saying this, Wan Qing no longer cared about Suliang's attitude, and she completely transformed into eyes in front of Suliang's eyes. A pair of slender jade hands roamed Suliang's body, and her beautiful white legs stretched out and came to Suliang's body, rubbing back and forth. Wan Qing felt very happy. Just want to tease the master who used to be so calm. I want to take a look. I have acted like this. Can master really still be as calm and ignoring as before? But when Wan Qing interfered, Suliang's mood had calmed down. In just an instant, Suliang reached the level of no ripples in the ancient well, his mind was as calm as water, and he was not disturbed by external objects at all. Okay, since the master wants to test my determination, the results I have received under my sister's tempering can just be shown to the restless and kind-hearted master. Master, amid my sister's temptation day after day, my disciple has long understood one thing. Women will only affect the speed at which I draw my sword. So, it's so good to be obsessed with swordsmanship, why bother thinking about your sister, girlfriend, and master? Then, with this thought, Suliang was completely unaffected by Wan Qing. From the beginning, he immersed himself in the way of swordsmanship. No matter how Wan Qing acted, he remained unmoving and just practiced his own way of swordsmanship. Seeing Suliang's reaction, Wan Qing became a little unhappy. What's going on? Why didn't Suliang react at all? Could it be that my strategy of retreating to advance has failed? No way. Wan Qing is not narcissistic, but she is still very confident in her beauty. She doesn't believe that the master will not be moved even after she has been seduced like this. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 165. And this is also the basis for her plan. But this strategy of mine was originally intended to prevent Suliang from practicing. This was not only a way of beating him up, but also an opportunity to punish him and do something he wanted to do. After all, this is an opportunity to tame the former master in an honest and fair manner, and it cannot be missed at all. But who would have known that Suliang was not affected at all and just immersed himself in the knowledge of swordsmanship, which is like being as steady as an old dog and unable to move like a mountain. Can you still do it? What's so addictive about kendo? Can you still have fun with me? Please wake up, master. In other words, I have lost my charm and cannot compete with the two little girls Qin Binjiao and Qingya, and I am not enough to make Suliang take him seriously. At this moment, looking at Suliang, who had no reaction no matter what he did, as if he was dead, Wan Qing almost collapsed, and even began to doubt her own charm. After a long time, seeing that no matter what she did, even if she was alone, she might not be able to seduce Suliang, Wan Qing had no choice but to give up, and with a little helplessness, she said speechlessly, "Okay, disciple, you have passed this test, and I will become my teacher. I can teach you the compression method as my teacher." However, after the words fell, Suliang remained motionless. Seeing this, Wan Qing's face darkened slightly, and then she decisively pushed her entire head into her peak. Whoa! Suliang was suddenly attacked while he was comprehending. Suliang, who was having difficulty breathing, looked at Wan Qing in confusion. "Master, what's wrong?" Wan Qing said with a resentful expression, "You have passed the test. My teacher is going to teach you how to compress. Do you want to learn?" "Of course yes." Volume 1 Chapter 156 As a master, you cannot have evil intentions towards your disciples. Needless to say, this test is quite easy. I haven't realized anything key about my swordsmanship yet I passed it? Could it be that master has let things go? Walking to Suliang, Wan Qing slapped Suliang on the shoulder. "Sit down." Plop. This huge force made Suliang sit on the ground, grinning in pain. But Wan Qing didn't care about Suliang, but leaned down directly, got in close contact, and pressed behind Suliang. Hiss. Suliang immediately took a breath of air, feeling slightly uncomfortable. I have to say that my master's overly proud peak pressure is really good. Whether it is the softness or elasticity, it is a comfortable feel that surpasses all. Even with the slightest movement, the pair of soft but elastic parts are still changing their shapes, which is very beautiful. Immediately afterwards, Wan Qing began to tease Suliang silently. I saw. Wan Qing held her slender hand in Suliang's hand, and strands of true energy seeped out and entered Suliang's body. She actually began to teach Suliang step by step how to operate and compress the true energy. If this goes on, Even if Suliang tries his best to keep his mind as still as water and have no external objects, he is still captured by Wan Qing's proud peak, soft and delicate body, warm breath, and wisps of fragrance. His body stiffens unconsciously, and the giant sword also about to be unsheathed. Well, he still reacted. From this point of view, it's not that I'm unattractive, but that he's too tolerant. Even though he's acting like that, he still doesn't feel anything. This can't be my fault, right? Thinking in her mind, Wan Qing, who noticed the strange movement in Suliang's body, regained her confidence. However, Wan Qing herself didn't expect that she would finally regain her confidence and become happy, but not long after she was happy, a sudden change occurred. It only takes a few minutes. I saw. Suliang closed his eyes, and his whole body fell into a special artistic conception. And immediately after, Minghai Giwenjin was activated, and under Wan Qing's perception, all the energy of all things around Suliang was controlled by Suliang, mobilized, and moved towards Suliang's hands like an arm. Even Wan Qing's whole body and even the true energy in her body were tried to be mobilized. However, due to Wan Qing's intervention, in the end, it was just the true energy around her body that was mobilized. Next moment, countless energy of all things gathered together in Suliang's hands to form a huge sphere, the size of which was not much smaller than the one Wan Qing had used before. Holding his hands empty, a mysterious wave rippled through Suliang's body, quickly enveloping the energy of all things in his hands, continuously compressing and gathering them. Just a moment. The compression has actually been completed, leaving only the size of a fingertip, which exudes extremely powerful destructive waves, which is shocking. I learned it so quickly? Wan Qing was a little confused. Although Suliang was not like her, she created this compression secret method from scratch, but she learned it in half an hour just by teaching it once. This is too exaggerated. To know. From Wan Qing's own point of view, even if the control and concentration have reached the standard, those geniuses who want to learn this secret compression technique can't master it after several days or even a month of practice. Perfect execution. Suliang's talent is too exaggerated? However, this is not over yet. Just listening, Suliang murmured in a low voice, "No, although it is indeed compressed, this shape cannot release all the power. It seems that it needs to be optimized." Then, just for a moment, under Wan Qing's shocked gaze, the compressed energy of all things in Suliang's hand changed into a cylindrical shape, and the top turned into a semicircle, covering it. After feeling it for a moment, Wan Qing was even more shocked. In just a short moment, not only the size, but also the shape of Suliang was optimized to the maximum extent. Now, the power of this compressed energy of all things is far beyond Wan Qing's compression results. And just when Wan Qing was shocked, Suliang suddenly opened his eyes, and with a snap of his fingers, he used the bullet-like Minghai Giwenjin in his hand. Boom! With a muffled sound, even a hole as big as a bowl was punched through the wall of the room, and the outside could be seen. See this? Wan Qing took action decisively, and when the true energy surged, a shield-like thing was formed, covering the aura of all things, limiting its killing range. Boom! After a roaring explosion, Wan Qing's expression changed. Although this was a protection she cast in a hurry, the effect was still astonishing, and ordinary immortality might not be able to shake it much. But Suliang's move actually shook her defense. It sounds like the effect is average, but you have to know that her strength far exceeds that of Suliang, and the gap between the two is several times larger than that of Tan Kinja and a child. From this point of view, the lethality of Suliang's optimized move is simply terrifying. Even if the immortality realm is obtained by force, I'm afraid you can't get it, right? What kind of destructive power is this? It's simply a foul. At this moment, Wan Qing was completely shocked. Looking at Suliang with some expectation from the whole maid, Looking at the power of his move, Wan Qing stood up and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. She only felt that before she could educate her master, her self-confidence as a master had been completely defeated and shattered into powder. This apprentice's understanding seems to be higher than mine. Relying on the convenience of his cultivation level, he studied the things for a whole night, but not only did he learn it in half a quarter of an hour, he was also able to optimize it and make it stronger than his original version. This innate understanding, is beyond description. It is simply the way of heaven appearing in this world. Should I say that I am worthy of my former master? I cannot compare to him. I really cannot compare to him. This moment, Wan Qing was in a trance, her eyes were lifeless, and she fell to the ground with a thud, drawing circles on the ground. Her whole body turned gray-white, as if everything in the world had left her, and she was really shocked. And this time, Suliang turned his head, looked at Wan Qing, and asked expectantly, "Master, look, how am I doing?" Suliang swore that he was really simply asking his master for advice. However, hearing Suliang's words, Wan Qing felt so angry that she almost wanted to scold her apprentice angrily. "You have surpassed me, yet I ask how you did. Where are you leaving this with me in Versailles? Despise you." But despite this, Wan Qing quickly regained her composure, held her head high, and on the surface looked reserved and noble, and said calmly, "It's okay, so." After saying that, he turned around and sat back. While picking up the teapot, he said to Suliang, "Sit over here." After Suliang sat down, Wan Qing continued, "It's your ability to learn it so quickly. It's a reward for me to make tea for you." While talking, Wan Qing held the teapot in her slender hand, and poured the hot, sweet spring water onto the spiritual tea. Her movements were elegant, calm, and her expression was calm. Every move exuded a sense of intelligence and luxury. The dense water vapor drifted away, obscuring Suliang's sight. Between the water vapor, the evening sky shrouded like mist. The pair of proud peaks trembled slightly with the movement, and the graceful body curves were fully displayed at every turn. "Please." Putting the tea in front of Suliang, Wan Qing still had some intellectual flavor and said softly, "Try the tea I brewed for you. Did you know that this is a refreshing tea made from a 1,000-year-old tree, produced once every 10 years? It has the effect of calming the mind and refreshing the mind. The minds of the people in the world are blinded. Only by clearing away the smoke and haze can we understand the Tao. This tea can help people realize the Tao. It is a good thing that only the top sex can have. Thank you, Master." After Suliang bowed, he picked up the teacup and drank the tea in small sips, comprehending its efficacy. But after a while, Suli only felt that the tea was generally a bit bitter, but he didn't feel much else. Seeing Suliang's confused eyes, Wan Qing said, "Close your eyes and understand it carefully." Hearing this, Suliang closed his eyes honestly. But just when the apprentice closes his eyes, Wan Qing suddenly leaned over, and her pink and waxy lips touched Suliang's lips, touching them. As a master, he secretly kissed his apprentice. On the other side, Suliang, who was closing his eyes, suddenly felt a strange but familiar warm touch on his lips. He licked it with his tongue, and it was sweet and refreshing. Opening his eyes in confusion, Suliang touched his lips in confusion and looked at the master in front of him, not quite understanding what just happened. "I always feel that it feels similar to kissing. But, it's clear that the only one here is master." Thinking in his mind, Suliang looked at Wan Qing, only to see that Wan Qing had her hands folded in front of her body. Her expression was calm, she was still dignified and stunning, and she could see no problem at all. On this day, a strange phenomenon descended from the sky. Amidst a loud roar, the color of the sky and the earth changed, and things that had nothing to do with Tiandao sect, such as snow-capped mountains and waterfalls, suddenly appeared in the back mountains of Tiandao section. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 166. The snow towers into the clouds, and it is covered with white snow. Looking from a distance, you can feel the coldness, and even the temperature in the nearby Tiandao sect has dropped a lot. So much so that many disciples added a few layers of clothes to protect themselves from the cold. And that miraculous waterfall flows down from the top of the snow-capped mountains, like the Milky Way falling in the sky. The water surges and makes a loud roar, deafening and inexplicable. This time, everyone in the Tiandao sect, from the elders to the lowest disciples, were shocked when they looked at this strange scene that appeared inexplicably. They didn't know what was going on. They wanted to go and investigate, but they lacked the courage. But no matter what, they never imagined that this miraculous phenomenon of snow-capped mountains and waterfalls was actually a scene created by Wanqing with great means. The reason why this waterfall can flow rapidly in extremely cold places such as snow-capped mountains is because it is not an ordinary water flow at all. It is a waterfall constructed by Wanqing from pure spiritual energy. It can be said that every drop of water is composed of spiritual energy that has been condensed into a liquid state. Just get into it, without even practicing, your strength will improve. Such methods can be said to be extremely extravagant and terrifying. And using such great skill is just to train disciples. This kind of thing is probably not something that even those from the supreme aristocratic families and top sects are willing to do. On the back mountain of Tiandaizong, under the waterfall, Suliang looked at the snow-capped mountains and the turbulent waterfalls filled with spiritual energy, and was amazed. Such a scene was actually constructed by Master alone. This level of cultivation strength is really amazing. This spiritual energy waterfall, it's all made up of pure spiritual energy without impurities. Isn't it too scary? After hearing this, Wanqing shook her head and said calmly, "It's nothing. It's too common to be able to do it without spending much effort as a teacher. Say it." But suddenly turned to look at Suliang, "Disciple, you have been staying in a small place like Tiandao section regardless of your cultivation level for the time being, your vision has been limited by this small world. As a disciple of the Master, this point the vision is not enough. It seems that it is necessary to open your eyes." Suliang blinked and asked, "Master, what should I do?" Wanqing shook her head and didn't say much, but directly increased the difficulty for Suliang. She pointed at the waterfall and said, "You, go train under that waterfall. Liquid spiritual energy strikes down from a high place and is much heavier than water. Practicing in this way can not only exercise your body, but also allow you to absorb spiritual energy faster. Of course, with your physical strength and talent, this kind of training is just the icing on the cake. The most important thing is that practicing like this can train your concentration, and this is also the purpose of becoming a teacher." After hearing this, Suliang turned his head and looked at his master. "But I saw it." Compared with before, Wanqing's clothes were more concise. She was wrapped in a short skirt and her snow-white slender legs were exposed in front of Suliang. Her soft jade feet lightly stepped on the ground, which was indescribably cute and tempting. Coupled with this stunning face and that holy yet charming temperament, it can drive people crazy. Seeing his master like this and remembering everything he had experienced before, although he was denying it in his heart, Suliang still looked at Wanqing with suspicion. Is this cheap master really just trying to train his concentration? Why don't you really believe it? However, seeing Wanqing's cold and arrogant face, her hands behind her back, her demeanor majestic, just standing there, she looked like a real cold and arrogant queen, completely opposite to her previous demeanor when she was practicing with her in the room. It can be said to be unpredictable. Have no choice. Su Yang had no choice but to believe it for the time being and responded, "Yes, master, I understand, and I will definitely practice hard." "Well, as long as you understand." Wan Qing nodded with satisfaction. "In that case, just get into the water and practice your sword under the waterfall." "Yes." He responded with a fist, and then, Su Yang held a long sword, jumped into the water, and quickly came to the waterfall, stood under the waterfall, and began to practice swordsmanship. However, Su Yang found it difficult to adapt to the huge pressure from the waterfall of spiritual energy rushing down from a very high place. Volume 1 Chapter 157 Beautiful woman, I am very familiar with this test method. Let alone practicing swordsmanship, even standing still is very difficult. But soon, as he felt the waterfall flowing down, a hint of enlightenment gradually appeared in Su Yang's heart. The waterfall flows down, and the spiritual energy condenses. This huge power is naturally not so easy to resist. However, Su Yang felt that what he should do was not use his own strength to resist the impact of the waterfall. In this way, there would be no benefit except increasing some strength. Instead of doing this, it is better to follow the power of the current, just like rafting in the tide. Only by going with the current can you gain something and avoid being buried in the tide. With this thought, Su Yang realized clearly and decisively began to feel the power of the waterfall. He changed from resisting to going with the flow. Soon, he mastered the trick. Then, in a very short period of time, under the waterfall, Su Yang became more and more familiar with it. Not only did he stand more steadily, but he also swung the sword more smoothly. Faintly, in the waterfall and flowing water, Su Yang seemed to have some realization. The sword in his hand became more and more ethereal and mysterious, as weak as flowing water, but hiding the destructive power of the stormy waves. With one move after another, the waterfall was cut off and the water flowed back. The power was unparalleled. See this. Wan Qing was shocked by Su Yang again. It is not that she has never experienced this kind of training under the waterfall. At the beginning, it was indeed as difficult as Su Yang, but after that, she did master the trick like Su Yang. But this process lasted for a long time for her. Not to mention, he could still practice swordsmanship to such an extent like Su Yang. It can be said that Su Yang's talent now far exceeds hers several times. She herself is already a rare and proud person. Su Yang, who is much stronger than her, may be a real monster. After standing on the shore and watching for a while, Wan Qing couldn't stand it any longer and saw Su Yang practicing swordplay easily and comfortably. Wan Qing couldn't stand it anymore and decisively entered the water, intending to make it more difficult for Su Yang. I saw that, sister, you entered the water, and the water wet the skirt of her clothes. The short skirt that was just above the knees became a little transparent and wrapped tightly around her body, looming. The shape of the pair of proud peaks and the flat belly are clearly exposed and extremely attractive. Water droplets flew around, wetting Wan Qing's cheeks and hair, and her long wet purple hair stuck to her face. Her beautiful cheeks were full of traces of moisture. The water droplets flowed to her lips, filling her pink and red lips with translucent and clear. Wan Qing at this moment is so tempting that no one will be tempted. However, facing Wan Qing, who looked like this, Su Yang remained unmoved and continued to practice his sword without any distractions. Result. Immediately afterwards, Wan Qing came close to her, her moist yet hot soft body pressed against Su Yang's body, and her pair of proud peaks pressed tightly, making people think. Approaching Su Yang's ear, Wan Qing exhaled like a blue breath and said softly, "Disciple, it seems that it's time for me to give you some tests as my master." Test. Being approached by the master, Su Yang had to temporarily stop his sword moves and asked, "The test that the master mentioned is?" Wan Qing leaned closer, and there seemed to be some charm in her voice. "My master requires that you stick to your heart, focus on your sword practice, and be free from distractions under my temptation. In this way, you can practice the supreme swordsmanship. Disciple, your swordsmanship talent is indeed very good. Now, you need this kind of test. As your master, as long as your cultivation strength can be improved, it is your duty to be a master. What he said was serious, well-founded, and convincing, and even Suliang almost believed it. But, feeling the master's proud peaks that are tightly attached to the body, the elasticity and softness become more obvious as the master's clothes get soaked, coupled with the gentle spray on the ear, the breath, the faint fragrance lingering on the tip of the nose. Would you rather call this a test? Master, you are obviously teasing me. Hey, please just admit it, okay? I can see it. Really, why did things become like this? He thought helplessly, and soon, Suliang's eyes became firm, confirming the belief in his heart. He admitted that his cheap master was indeed very tempting, and every move he made was quite tantalizing, making people want to make mistakes and unable to stop. But I, Suliang, will never be fooled. Master, if you have any other tricks, use them. I, Suliang, will never fall into your trap. As for Wan Qing's current behavior, Tan Qinja would say that I am very familiar with this wave. Isn't it just stealing food openly? Auntie, you must not be as good as me. I have been stealing food for I don't know how long. I have mastered all kinds of tricks and can publish a book. And just when Suliang strengthened his belief, Wan Qing has already taken action and started on-site teaching. Regarding the subject of how fairies seduce people, Wan Qing said that I have something to say. I saw. Wan Qing stretched out her slender hands and hugged Suliang's neck, pressing her whole body closer to Suliang. Even the gap created between the two people because the proud peak was too majestic was blocked by Wan Qing, making it so tight that even water could not penetrate. Next moment, Wan Qing came close to Suliang's ear, opened her red lips lightly, bit Suliang's ear lightly with her teeth, and licked Suliang's ear bit by bit with her flexible and delicate tongue. That warm touch, coupled with the soft and delicate body in her arms, and the beautiful touch of the proud peak, no one can resist this kind of temptation. But Wan Qing still refuses to give up. Not only the top, but while hugging Suliang, Wan Qing's slender white legs exposed under her short skirt slightly lifted up and gently lifted Suliang's clothes. Wan Qing's movements were extremely careful and gentle, but it was precisely because of this that Suliang could clearly feel the beautiful touch of the snow-white smoothness on his body. Wan Qing planned to use this method to disturb Suliang's Taoist mind. While moving, Wan Qing began to stimulate Suliang with words, "My good disciple, you still like what I did for my master, are you satisfied? I would like to know, as a teacher, who is more professional than your little girlfriends in what I have done? Who do you like more?" Feeling the master's movements and listening to the master's words, Suliang said calmly, "Master, please respect yourself. You and I are master and disciple, and there are differences between men and women. Master's behavior is too much." However, facing Suliang's reminder, Wan Qing ignored it at all. She shook her head and never stopped moving. "So what, this is just training. You train your apprentice as a master and want your apprentice to be stronger. This is what, don't think too much. Believe it or not. Who can use this method for master-disciple training? Isn't this a bit too much? As long as you restrain yourself, I can believe you, okay? Aren't you afraid that if someone can't help it, the gun will go off? Moreover, this is the first time you have done this to me, right? I've already been fooled once, and I won't trust you again. I'll be fooled a second time, okay?" Seeing that it was impossible for the master to listen to his words, Suliang had no choice but to stop caring about the master. Then, he transferred all his energy to the practice of swordsmanship, doing two things at once. While enduring the impact of his master's movements and words, he practiced sword moves seriously and felt the rhythm of the waterfall. But even so, his master's fiery and bold actions and words made Suliang very difficult to bear. He was under great pressure and almost collapsed several times. If it were someone else in this situation, I'm afraid it would have collapsed long ago. But fortunately, Suliang was determined and kept thinking about his girlfriend's appearance, her smile, and how charming and obedient they were when they were practicing together. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 167. When you think about it like this, why do you feel even more overwhelmed? But in the end, Suliang still relied on his girlfriend to motivate him, and kept silently saying that he could not betray his girlfriend or make his girlfriend sad again to deal with the pressure. Finally, under this huge pressure, Suliang's practice finally yielded some results. Boom! After a breakthrough in swordsmanship, there was a roar and explosion. After being washed by the spiritual energy waterfall and nourished by the double majestic spiritual energy soaked in the spiritual energy pool, Suliang, who had just broken through the realm of dragon transformation, actually broke through to the second level of dragon transformation. Next. Base. There was a ferocious sword cry, and Suliang slashed out with his sword, causing the waterfall to roll upwards and fly straight over the top of the snow-capped mountains, unable to fall for a long time. Even afterwards, all the torrents left from the snow-capped mountains were swept back by the sword energy, flowing upstream and straight into the sky. This sword is simply heaven-defying. And Suliang at this moment, holding the long sword in his hand, he still maintained the posture of slashing with the sword. His messy hair was curled up, his face was calm and resolute, while his clothes were flying, all the water droplets on them were taken away by the sword energy. With such grace, Wan Qing was distracted by the sight, and everyone was attracted towards it. Vaguely, Wan Qing seemed to see that figure again, with a sword cutting across 3,000 feet. Tiandao sect. Seeing that her boyfriend and her boyfriend's master had not returned home all day, and they didn't know where they went, Qin Benjao looked cute and indifferent at all. Instead, at home, I happily prepared dinner for my husband who was practicing hard and cooked it myself, hoping to make something good to reward my boyfriend. Just like in an ordinary family, the wife is at home, waiting for the husband to return from a day's work, preparing to make something good to reward her husband. Such a good wife is hard to find in the world. However, the wife who was waiting for her husband at home had no idea what a huge test the husband outside was going through. The dire straits are not enough to describe it. Unlike Qin Benjao who was cooking at home and waiting for her husband to return without any sense of crisis, Tan Kinja was full of doubts at this moment. As a niece, Tan Kinja knows her aunt very well, and she knows what her aunt will do without even thinking about it. Volume 1 Chapter 158 The Worries of the Beautiful Woman, the Dark Fairy. And in the name of training, Tan Kinja has done things like stealing food openly and openly. Not only has she done it, she has used similar moves for training many times before. It can be said that she is very familiar with it and is full of sexy skills. This kind of similar experience inevitably made her think too much. At this moment, Tan Kinja was full of doubts about her aunt, and she always felt that what she had done before would happen again. Then, seeing her aunt come back with her man, Tan Kinja walked out of the room without hesitation and found Wan Qing when Suliang was not around. "Hey, Kinja." Wan Qing raised her eyebrows slightly, with a hint of amusement in her tone. "This is the first time you come to see my aunt. Why, is it because I haven't seen you for many years, so I miss you so much? If that's the case, why did it take so many days for you to remember that you wanted to come see my aunt?" While speaking, Wan Qing stretched out her hand to Tan Kinja and said calmly, "Come on, Kinja, I haven't seen you for so many years, and my aunt misses you very much." We were in a hurry and didn't have time to reminisce about the past. Now it's rare for you to find your aunt, so come here. Come talk to me. After hearing this, Tan Kinja's mind was filled with images of her aunt bullying men and dominating women when she was in the family. Unable to help but shudder, Tan Kinja subconsciously took a step back and asked, "Auntie, let me ask you, are you not greedy for my man?" As soon as these words came out, Wan Qing's expression immediately turned cold on her beautiful face. "You say I'm greedy for your man? Ha, what a joke." Wan Qing's voice gradually became colder, and she slowly stood up and took steps in the direction of Tan Kinja. Moment. Tan Kinja felt cold all over her body, as if some disaster was about to happen, and as if she was being targeted by something terrifying. Without saying a word, and not even paying attention to Wan Qing's answer, Tan Kinja turned around and ran away. However, Wan Qing appeared next to Tan Kinja in an instant, grabbed Tan Kinja, dodged again, and sat back down again. But Tan Kinja was already lying on Wan Qing's lap. "Hey, Xiao Kinja, we haven't seen you for several years, do you dare to say this to my aunt? Tisk, tisk, it seems that you have grown crooked in these years since my aunt has not been with you. In this case, as your aunt, let me teach you what it means to respect your elders." The words fell. Snapped. A slap hit Tan Kinja's plump part. And as this palm went down, the plump part actually started to tremble slightly, and it felt very good. Xiao Kinja, you dare to doubt me?" Wan Qing said and slapped him again. After just 2 slaps, Tan Kinja was already crying, her cheeks were red, and she was extremely embarrassed, but she did not dare to resist, and she was unable to resist. He had no choice but to bite his lower lip lightly and try to endure it. Seeing her niece's appearance, Wan Qing seemed to be still upset and continued to educate her. "Humph, do I call that greedy? How could it be greedy when it comes to my master? That is true love. Let me tell you, I came 1,000 years earlier than you all. Logically speaking, I am the first one, so you should be the one who wants me." Thinking in her mind, Wan Qing put on a serious face. Fukang Dao sect. In the room, Dao Zi, who was sent back by Wan Qing, was currently recovering from his injuries. On that day, although Suliang's sword did not cut him down, he was still severely injured by the power of the sword just in the process of resisting. What's more, Mo Tianxian's heart was broken under that stunning sword, and now he is trying to find a way to recover. However, this hope is quite slim. And while Mo Tianxian was practicing and recuperating, the scenes in Tiandao sect kept appearing in his mind, and even he couldn't control it. "I don't wait around and work hard for countless hours just to become master's disciple, gain master's recognition and favor, and then plot against master. However, now, there is someone who wants to become master's disciple even more than me. Why should he? This is something that I have not been able to achieve despite my countless efforts. Then why did Suliang become the master's disciple?" When she thought of Wan Qing announcing in public that Suliang was her apprentice and how she protected Suliang in every possible way, Mo Tianxia felt like her heart was cut with a knife. "Master, she should obviously belong to me alone, but now there is another Suliang, what does this mean? Suliang, you despicable villain, if you take away my master, I will kill you." After venting his frustration for a while, Mo Tongxian finally calmed down and began to comfort himself. "Don't worry too much. Think about how cruel the master's training was to me at the beginning. Even a rare proud man like me, even if it is unbearable, Suliang will definitely suffer disaster at the hands of master. When the time comes, I don't believe that Suliang can continue to be with master." As soon as he thought of this, the scene of Suliang being tortured in various ways at the hands of the late Qing dynasty, worse than death, immediately appeared in Mo Dongxian's mind, which made him feel happy and proud. But he never expected that Suliang was indeed tortured at this moment, But this torture. Does it count to be hugged and flirted with by your master? Hiss, don't tell me, master is really big, soft, and fragrant. Tiendeo sect. After practicing for 2 consecutive days, each day was spent in constant passive communication with his master. Finally, Suliang was very sure that his master was definitely not innocent in his thoughts. After all, didn't that sister of mine do the same thing back then? But the master now does it even more than the elder sister did back then, and it's even more seductive. No, no, we have to find a way, we can't keep going like this, right? But, frowning and thinking deeply, Suliang was surprised to find that there didn't seem to be any big problem if he continued like this. Ouch, ouch, so annoying. How great would it be if a mature and intellectual elder sister came to talk to me and answer my doubts? And just then, the door was suddenly opened, and Tan Kinja put her little head in. Seeing that Suliang was the only one in the room, she walked in quietly. Sister, what are you? Suliang asked doubtfully. SHH. Tan Kinja made a silence gesture, then approached Suliang, mysteriously, and specifically warned, Ailiang, I suspect that your master has evil intentions towards you. Everything, you must never be tempted by your master, otherwise, the consequences will be unpredictable. Huh. Looking at my sister, why does she seem a little afraid of my master? Moreover, judging from my sister's determined look, she seems to be very familiar with my master. With doubts about the relationship between the two, Suliang asked, Sister, it seems that you and master have known each other for a long time. After hesitating and struggling for a moment, Tan Kinja reluctantly nodded, Yes, we know each other. Ailiang, your master, she is my aunt. Tan Kinja couldn't help but hold Suliang's hand, and reluctantly confessed, Do you know how bad my aunt was at home? Before Tan Kinja could tell, she was almost in tears looking at Tan Kinja. Suliang, who had never seen his sister look like this, immediately understood something, held Tan Kinja's hand and said seriously, Sister, don't be afraid. You can feel free to say it boldly, I'm here. Perhaps because she gained some sense of security by coming here quickly, Tan Kinja nodded, and then told all the humiliation she suffered at Wan Qing's place. What is it that my aunt robbed her of my beloved things? Why was she spanked whenever I disagreed? What was she who was tricked countless times by Wan Qing in various ways, and what was she who was pushed by Wan Qing to take the blame for her? But Wan Qing, who has done so many bad things, is naturally cold and arrogant, and has never known repentance. God knows what relationship Tan Kinja had with Wan Qing when he left the family and came to Tiandeo sect. In short, in Tan Kinja's narration, the image of a rather cold, arrogant, but bad aunt completely unfolded before Suliang's eyes. At last, Tan Kinja pulled Suliang and almost burst into tears, Ailiang, with my aunt's character, she must get whatever she wants, so she will definitely come up with various ways to deal with you. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 168. You must stick to your heart, think more about me and Yao, and don't be tempted by her. Otherwise, with my aunt's bad character, you don't know what kind of torture you will suffer in the future. Sister, don't worry, I know what's going on. Suliang forced a smile and nodded, but in his heart, he called him a good guy. Listening to his sister's story, and thinking of his master's various attitudes and behaviors towards him, Suliang's eyes gradually changed. Could it be that the real Cao Thief is here? The so-called competitor, the Taoist named Mo Bianxian, is just a foil, right? After thinking about this, Suliang decisively gave up discussing this issue with his sister. He just hugged her sister and, a little stiffly, moved the topic to other places. After sending his sister away, Suliang rubbed his eyebrows slightly with a headache, then got up and went out to find his girlfriend. It seems that my sister, who is mature and intellectual, can't give me any answer. I still have to talk to my girlfriend about this question. In short, I have already been sorry to my girlfriend once before, and now I have this sign again. No matter what, I can't be sorry to my girlfriend again. After finding Qin Binjao, Suliang didn't hide anything and told his girlfriend everything that happened in the past 2 days, including the master's attitude towards him and what the master had done to him. At last, Suliangdao understood his suspicion. Binjao, I always feel that master, does she have some impure purpose for me? Tell me, what should I do next? But I didn't expect it. Facing Suliang's question, Qin Binjao blinked and said with a cute look, Suliang, are you too confident? Your master has only been in contact with you for a few days, and I didn't know you before. How can I think about it? Doesn't it have any other purpose for you? Furthermore, your master is very charming and elegant. He must have very high standards. How could he fall in love with you so quickly? Hearing this, Suliang was very helpless. This silly girlfriend of mine is smarter than anyone else in some unseemly ways, but when it comes to such a major matter of life, why is she so cute? Boom. Suliang gave his girlfriend a decisive blow, and reminded him helplessly, Binjao, have you forgotten your master? If you think about it carefully, is my master's situation now very similar to your master's situation before? Yes. Qin Binjao blinked, looking like she suddenly understood, and then nodded seriously, her cute and beautiful little face wrinkled. It seems that I need to pay attention. But then, as if she thought of something, the tangle on Qin Binjao's face disappeared in an instant, and a sinister smile flashed away. Qin Binjao hugged her boyfriend's arm and said in a tired voice, it's rare that your master is so considerate. Suliang, how about you go and capture your master? I support you in this matter. Hearing this, Suliang was so shocked that he opened his mouth and felt bad all over. Yao, you can't joke about this kind of thing. I'm not joking. Qin Binjao shook her head, but her attitude was very firm. After all, she also suddenly remembered how the master looked trembling in front of Wanqing when she saw Master Suliang before. Although I don't know what is going on, in short, Suliang's master can definitely shock the master. That's enough. Yes, she just wants to take revenge on her master. What's more, Suliang's master turned out to be his master's aunt. The aunt and niece served Suliang together. The scene was very exciting to think about. Looking at his girlfriend who seemed to have a very determined attitude, Suliang was extremely speechless at this moment. It's completely hopeless, just bury it. What on earth stimulated this girl to push the man away? But at this moment, Suliang suddenly realized that something was wrong with his girlfriend. I saw. Qin Binjao's eyes were lifeless and hollow, and her face was a little gloomy, but a big smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, which looked extremely scary. It was obvious that it was dark and was going to be broken. Binjao. Suliang hurriedly pressed his girlfriend's shoulders and asked with concern, what's wrong with you? Could it be that you were stimulated by something? Don't scare me. Suddenly disturbed by Suliang, Qin Binjao seemed to wake up and return to normal in an instant. She still looked cute and explained to Suliang seriously, Anla Suliang, I just made a joke. You don't necessarily have to capture master. It's just that we have to create such a sense of crisis. A sense of crisis? Suliang was a little puzzled. Nodding, Qin Binjao thought for a moment and analyzed the current situation. Suliang, look, the current master is really too strong. Neither you nor I can suppress him. If we continue like this, won't it make master feel more confident? By then, our lives will be difficult. Beautiful woman, idiot and traitor, the enemy should not be me at all. Volume 1 Chapter 159, Infighting between master and apprentice, Wanqing steals home. So, We must find someone to restrain the master. We cannot let the master continue to do whatever he wants. This is a plan to drive away wolves and swallow tigers. Sulang, what do you think? After listening to what his girlfriend said, the more Sulang listened, the more he felt a sense of déjà vu. How does this sound like talking about the Three Kingdoms? A mere romance can turn into the intrigues and intrigues of the Three Kingdoms, full of schemes. Madam, I am really yours. Moreover, does my cute fairy think so long-term? Suliang Zhong agreed with his girlfriend's strategy, but he just felt it was unnecessary. My sister is indeed stronger, more arrogant, and more domineering, but she is still very obedient in bed. But Qin Binjao couldn't listen to Suliang's explanation. Chapter 218 The Battle Between Master and Apprentice. After asking his sister and girlfriend successively, Suliang still didn't get what he wanted. My sister, it would be better not to bring up this topic in front of her in the future. As for my girlfriend's thoughts, I'd better ignore them. Seeing that the time was getting late, after dinner, Suliang planned to go back to his girlfriend's room and prepare to rest. But he didn't expect that regarding the issue of sleeping, his two girlfriends could actually start a Shura field. Outside the room, Suliang had just arrived. Before he could open the door, he saw Tan Kinja walking out of the darkness and looking for him. Sister, is there something wrong with me? Suliang asked a little confused. Baiki bit her lower lip, hesitated for a moment, and then Tan Kinja said, Ailiang, are you planning to go back to Yao's room to sleep? Suliang nodded naturally. After all, before the relationship between the two was exposed, Suliang had always slept at Qin Binjao's place as long as Qin Binjao was at home. He had already formed a habit and didn't feel anything was wrong at all. However, he forgot that his relationship with Tan Kinja was now public. In theory, he could go to Tan Kinja openly at night. Of course, as long as you are not afraid of your girlfriend being angry. Hearing Suliang's words, Tan Kinja immediately said, Tonight, it's my turn, right? Yao has been occupying you for several days. If it were before, that would be it. But now, since Yao knows everything, you should come to my place, right? Both inside and outside the words were full of resentment that one's own man was being occupied by one's apprentice, and oneself had been left out for a long time without having any meat to eat. But this sentence happened to be heard by Qin Binjao, who was waiting for her boyfriend to rest in the room. Opening the door, Qin Binjao immediately appeared in front of the two of them. She looked magnanimous and said with her hands behind her back, Master, since you want it, you should tell your sister earlier. It's just for one night. I'll let you out generously, it's not impossible. Okay, Sulang will sleep at Master's place tonight. Seeing that her wish was fulfilled, Tan Kinja was not very happy. The man I love has to be sacrificed by my apprentice so that I can get it for just one night. You make me, the master, feel so embarrassed, Yao. If you really took Liang away like this as a matter of course and brought about your magnanimity, I, the master, should not do it anymore? Then. Tan Kinja spoke without thinking, Yao's words are wrong. Now Sulang is the man for you and me. In this case, it is normal for him to accompany you as your teacher. How can you say that you want to do it generously? On the contrary, a few days ago, you occupied Ailiang for a few days, but you didn't say anything as a teacher. Isn't this magnanimous? Unexpectedly, Qin Binjao was not afraid at all, but explained seriously, Master, you have to understand that I was with Sulang first, and you came later, and you still stole my boyfriend. Under such circumstances, it is normal for me to ask Sulang to ignore you again. But now, instead of not minding it, I allow Sulang to sleep with you. Isn't this magnanimous of me? Master, think about it, where can anyone be as generous as me? After saying what he said, even Tan Kinja felt that it made sense, and it should indeed be the case. But Tan Kinja just felt unhappy and didn't want to agree. He felt that as long as he agreed to stay with Ailiang, wouldn't it become a generous act of charity from his disciple? Naturally, he is a head lower than his own disciple. As a master, wouldn't his reputation plummet and he would no longer be able to control this rebellious disciple? How can this be done? Then, vaguely, the two of them stared at each other, neither of them willing to give in, and the atmosphere fell into a stalemate for a while. Ahem, sister, Benjeo, you guys. Suliang coughed lightly and spoke, trying to lighten the atmosphere. But right now, Tan Kinja thought of something, and suddenly spoke, interrupting Suliang, Yao you and I are not willing to give in, but if you and I continue like this, we will hurt our harmony. The saddest thing is Ailiang. In that case, how about you and I solve this matter in another way? Master, please tell me, all disciples will accompany you. Qin Benjeo faced off tit for tat, not falling behind in the slightest. You and I make a bet. Tan Kinja said crisply, you and I each use our own methods to fight for Ailiang. In the end, let Ailiang make the choice. How about that? I think so too. Qin Benjeo nodded and agreed to this master-disciple battle. Suliang was the only one who listened to the conversation between the two and felt like crying without tears. He was extremely helpless. In this way, you two are very happy, but I am in a dilemma. One side is his girlfriend, and the other is his sister. Although the girlfriend is indeed a little older, in his heart, both of them are equally important and indispensable people. What do you want me to choose? Whoever I choose is seeking death. I see, you are not fighting over who I sleep with tonight, you are trying to kill me. In this situation, it is better not to expose the relationship between myself and my sister. However, neither Tan Kinja nor Qin Benjeo cared about Suliang's difficulties. Even though they had made a bet and made an agreement, the two of them were still tit for tat, trying their best to make Suliang favor themselves more. I saw. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 169. The moment the apprentice agreed, a smile appeared on Tan Kinja's beautiful face, as if she was determined to win. Immediately afterwards, Tan Kinja looked at Suliang, her cheeks were flushed, her brows were full of spring, and the water in her eyes was flowing, extremely charming. Ailiang, tonight, I plan to show you the real use of that foxtail, what do you think? Woolen cloth. After hearing this, that night, the beautiful picture of his sister in a true vixen appeared in Suliang's mind, making Suliang couldn't help but swallow, looking forward to it. In response to Tan Kinja's words, Qin Benjeo on the side blinked with a cute look on her face, not knowing why. What are the uses of a foxtail? Apart from decoration, what else can that thing be used for? But even so, she could feel that she seemed to be at a disadvantage. Because the real use of the foxtail that Master mentioned seems to be very tempting to Suliang. No, I can't let Master go on like this. If he doesn't fight back, he will lose. As soon as she thought of this, Qin Benjeo immediately counterattacked, her face was filled with spring water, her eyes were full of charm, her tongue was sticking out, and she was licking her lower lip. She was close to Suliang, and her slender hands were roaming around Suliang's body with a charming look. Suliang, Master said, others can learn it too. Are you willing to teach others? I have to say that Qin Benjeo's pure appearance, even in Suliang's eyes, is far more charming than Tan Kinja. Immediately, Suliang became a little excited. Humph, those who are learning now are always unable to deal with the trouble. They are always not as good as me who have always understood. Tan Kinja looked at her apprentice with disdain, and then she approached Suliang and said charmingly, "Brother, I want a fox-eared pet. I am very willing to have an owner. Moreover, this little fox-eared pet is very willing to try some new tricks and postures with its owner." Hiss. Suliang took another breath of air conditioning, and the scene immediately appeared in his mind of his sister calling him master charmingly and trying new ways to play and new positions with him. My heart is moved, my heart is moved, who can withstand this? Almost, I agreed directly. Seeing that master raised the price again, Qin Binjao was not to be outdone and said the same. Sulang, master said, I can do it. As long as Sulang likes and wants, I can work hard to do it. Where's? It has to be said that Qin Binjao's pure appearance, coupled with the fact that she did everything just for her husband and loved him to the core, instantly surpassed Tan Kinja and made Suliang's breathing quicken. Wouldn't it be stupid if we didn't take good care of such a lovable girlfriend? Then, from this point on, the struggle between master and disciple, Qin Binjao and Tan Kinja, began. The two gradually raised their conditions in order to make Suliang choose them. As for these conditions, can you meet them? That's not within their scope of consideration. It would be better to say that at this time both parties have acquiesced to the fact that since Sulang, Liang, cannot do it to this extent, then they might as well stop fighting and admit defeat. As he watched, the situation between the two women became more and more intense, the conditions became more and more outrageous, and the smell of gunpowder between the two women became stronger and stronger. It seemed that as long as there was an opportunity, they could start a fratricide and completely turn into a Shura field. By this time, Suliang couldn't stand it anymore. They are all his own people, so there is no way to continue the quarrel like this. In the end, no matter who wins or loses or is injured in the fight, Suliang will be very sad. Simply. Suliang waved his hand and hugged both of them directly. There was an unquestionable flavor in his voice. Stop arguing. Since I can't decide, then I will sacrifice myself. Let's go together tonight. Sleep well. Who wants to sleep with her? The master and apprentice had a perfect understanding this time and said in unison. But even so, seeing Suliang's extremely determined attitude, the two had no choice but to stop fighting and enter the house together. After cleaning up, they lay on the bed. Suliang was lying in the middle. The master and the disciple came, one on the left and the other on the right. They were all held in Suliang's arms. Likewise, the two of them also hugged Suliang with their backhands. Seeing the three of them lying on the bed like this, without saying a word, the atmosphere was filled with silence. Ahem. Suliang coughed lightly and said, "Look, you two were master and apprentice. Now, we are a real family again. Why don't you get along well and be like sisters? What's the point of a family fighting over it? You think so?" While talking, Suliang kept observing the changes in the expressions of the two people. But seeing that neither of them spoke, Suliang sighed dejectedly. Suliang originally thought that he could make the two women completely become sisters at night, but now it seems that he still thinks too much. He doesn't have the domineering spirit at all. It was good this time, the three of them slept together, but Suliang knew that he could not touch anyone. No matter who you touch first, the other person will fall out on the spot. Then, he could only look at the two masters and disciples with big eyes and small eyes. One of them occupied Suliang's side and hugged him tightly. However, Suliang became the center of the tug of war between the two. He was suppressed by the two and could not move at all. One of them is pure and the other charming, one has been treated well and the other has grown up proudly. They have different looks, but each has his or her own merits, both of which bring a great sense of oppression to Suliang. Suliang, who was helpless, could only suffer the oppression of the two people silently and closed his eyes helplessly. Therefore, amidst the suffering and oppression of the whole night yesterday, when practicing the next day, Suliang was listless and felt exhausted both physically and mentally. Silently thinking about the scene last night, Suliang looked up at the sky with a tired look on his face. When will days like this end? I obviously didn't do anything last night, but I was even more tired than if I had done everything. This is ridiculous. And this time. Seeing Suliang's exhaustion, Wan Qing, who was hiding in the dark and observing, seemed to know that her opportunity had come, and decisively showed up to steal the house. Disciple. While calling Suliang softly, Wan Qing came to Suliang and asked with some concern, seeing that you are so tired, what's wrong? Thank you master for your concern. Suliang sighed, there are some small things at home that will make master laugh if you tell them. It's better not to tell them. It's better not to tell them. Since you don't say it, I won't force myself to be my teacher. Wan Qing shook her head, but suddenly hugged Suliang and comforted her softly, don't worry, disciple, no matter what you encounter, master will give you warmth. My disciple is so smart. He will definitely not be able to trouble you even if he is in trouble. Since you are tired, just have a good sleep. When you wake up, all your worries will be gone. Well. Suliang murmured in confusion, and indeed his eyelids felt a little heavy, and gradually, it seemed as if he was really about to fall asleep. See this. Wan Qing gently stroked Suliang's hair, then put her legs together, sat down on her side, put Suliang's head on her lap, and directly provided her apprentice with a knee pillow. Volume 1 Chapter 160 Fairy, it's time to let Master know who the mistress is. Be good, go to sleep, Master is with you. Whispering softly, Wan Qing seemed to think of that scene so long ago that time had faded, and a smile appeared on her lips. Then, Suliang had a good sleep after a long night of suffering. However, after a night's rest during the day, at night, the master and apprentice were still fighting among themselves. There was no winner yesterday, but I won't give up. Qin Benjao looked at Master seriously, Master, let's continue competing. I think so too. Tan Kinja nodded matter-of-factly, fighting tit for tat without giving in, we were tied yesterday. Today, it's time to change the competition. I think it's better to compete to see who is more comfortable taking care of Liang, how about that? Good. Qin Benjao decisively agreed without saying a word. Seeing the sparks rising again between the two, Suliang sighed. It seems that these two people must decide their order. Come on, you guys have sorted it out, I'm afraid I'll be tortured to death by you then. Immediately, Qin Benjao looked serious and said extremely forcefully, Humph, it seems it's time for Master to understand who is the mistress. The words were already on point, and coupled with Qin Benjao's cute and serious face, the lethality of these words was doubled. Hiss. Tan Kinja immediately took a breath of air and couldn't help but take a step back. Is this still my apprentice? How could I, Tan Kinja, my sweet, cute and filial apprentice, say such a thing? Although being a teacher is indeed a latecomer, as my disciple, you can't say that as a teacher. Yao where did my once lovely, well-behaved, and filial apprentice go? Change back quickly. Tan Kinja subconsciously covered her chest, feeling slightly uncomfortable, and almost vomited blood from her disciple's words. However, following closely, Tan Kinja's strong competitive spirit was inspired by Qin Benjao's words. Hum, Yao you still don't understand being a teacher very well. Do you think that with just one word from you, my teacher can make concessions to you? That's impossible. It's impossible for a teacher to be defeated so easily. Well, since even you think that my teacher is a bad woman and a mistress, then my teacher won't be nagging. No more pretending, I'm showing off my cards. As a bad woman, I knew the consequences as early as the moment I made my move. But, for Liang, everything is worth it. Liang and I have already missed each other once. We love each other so much, and I will never allow us to miss it again. Therefore, it is impossible for Yao to give in as a teacher. Even if I bear the evil of this world and become the bad woman you call me, which makes you sad, I will not give in even a little bit. I've got your boyfriend, no one can keep him, I said so. So, after the two of them fought for each other and continuously raised the conditions, of course, they were blocked by Suliang again. In the end, the same situation as last night, the two women each took Suliang's side, staring at each other tit for tat, neither giving in to the other, neither willing to admit defeat. As for Suliang, even if he hugged him from left to right, both sides were of different stunning beauty, no one could move or dare to move. He was regarded as the center of the tug of war between the two. Under the pressure of the two, he was tormented. Spent the night. Master, morning. Another time when he was practicing with his master, Suliang said hello to his master and then sat feebly aside, not even wanting to move. I saw. At this moment, Suliang was even more haggard, his face was pale, his eye sockets were sunken, and the big dark circles were clearly visible outside his eye sockets. He was weak and his whole body seemed to be getting thinner, as if he had suffered from some serious illness. Seeing Suliang like this, Wan Qing couldn't sit still. She came to Suliang and asked seriously, "Disciple, tell me, Master, what's wrong with you?" "Master, don't worry. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator." Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 170. Suliang waved his hand. "It's just some small things at home that are difficult to deal with at the moment. This makes my disciple unable to eat well and sleep well, and he is a little tired." After hearing this, and combining the past 2 days, when he accidentally met Qin Benjiao and Tan Qinjia, Wan Qing vaguely guessed something about their reactions. "Disciple, please don't go back tonight and sleep with me." "My good disciple, I sleep for my master, but I am honest. If you don't believe me, come and try it yourself." As she spoke, Wan Qing moved closer to Suliang, as if her whole body was squeezing against Suliang. The sense of oppression caused by those proud peaks was beyond imagination. Smelling the faint fragrance lingering on the tip of his nose, Suliang felt that these words were so familiar, as if he had heard them before, and he still heard them often. "It doesn't matter where you heard it, but master, if you ask me to sleep with you, make sure you are just sleeping, and you are not trying to eat me up." "Master, this is not good." Looking at his master a little warily, Suliang doubted whether there was something wrong with his master's attitude. "What's wrong with that?" Wan Qing didn't care. She directly took Suliang's arm and took Suliang away with her power that was too strong to resist. At night, before going to bed, after Wan Qing changed her clothes, she wore a thin pair of pajamas. Her slender and perfect figure, her proud peaks, and her long, beautiful, white legs were looming between the pajamas, showing her outlines and attracting people's attention. Coupled with Wan Qing's holy yet charming beauty, her mature and calm temperament accumulated over countless years is so alluring that it's hard not to be moved. Looking at his master like this, Suliang questioned, "Master, my disciple is here, your posture is a bit bad, isn't it?" However, Wan Qing, however, was very natural and said calmly, "We are master and apprentice. Master and apprentice are as close as family members. You don't need to worry about these details. Indeed, what you said makes sense, and I can't refute it at all." Suliang felt very speechless. His master had mentioned the whole family's story. No matter what he said, wasn't he denying the family's identity? This is impossible to refute. After cleaning up, the two went to bed and shared the same bed. However, Suliang discovered that the eldest sister sleeping next to him was really dishonest. "Night." "Well, good disciple." Muttering softly, Wan Qing turned over and immediately held Suliang in her arms. Next, holding Suliang's head with one hand, he directly pressed Suliang on the pair of overly proud peaks on her chest. Volume 1 Chapter 161, Master, if you want to call me sister, how dare you, a traitor? Feeling the soft yet elastic feeling brought by that overly proud peak, only separated by a thin layer of fabric, the smooth and warm jade touch was unstoppable. On the tip of the nose, there was a rich fragrance lingering. Milky flavor. At this moment, Suliang was completely stunned. Master, what are you doing? Master, although it is indeed comfortable to be comfortable, you are going too far. Do you, the old man, treat his disciples like this? But this is not the end. Just when Suliang was confused, Wan Qing raised one of her snow-white legs, and then she pressed tightly against Suliang's body, rubbing against her intentionally or unintentionally. Feeling the smooth and soft touch of the slender yet plump body, Suliang couldn't help but want to play with these beautiful white legs for hundreds of years. It's no wonder that Suliang's will is weak, it's because Wan Qing's posture at this time is too provocative. Then, under the entanglement of his master, Suliang stayed up all night. However, Wan Qing's feelings were different from Suliang's. Feeling the strange yet familiar long-lost feeling on the young boy in her arms, Wan Qing couldn't help but rub it in, a smile appeared on her lips. I haven't seen this kind of warmth for a long time. It's great to feel it again in this life. This night was so comfortable. Then, Wan Qing, who soon fell asleep, was disturbed by a fragment of memory. But I saw it. Under a Bodhi tree, a charming and beautiful woman is kneeling here, begging for 500 years. During these 500 years, despite the wind and rain, the beautiful woman still did not give up, just to see him again. However, 500 years have passed, and the Buddha has never fulfilled her wish. Call. Taking a deep breath, Wan Qing suddenly woke up from her dream. She felt that the scene in the dream was so vivid that her face turned pale. Master, what's wrong with you? Suliang was alarmed. Seeing his master's appearance, Suliang quickly asked with concern. Shaking her head, Wan Qing said nothing, just buried her head in Suliang's arms, holding Suliang's arm tightly with both hands, not daring to let go. At this moment, she actually showed a rare weakness, which even made Suliang feel a pity for her. Because Suliang stayed in Wan Qing's room that night and was taken away directly by Wan Qing. Therefore, Suliang naturally has not told his girlfriend and sister about this matter. Therefore, in the eyes of his girlfriend and sister, Suliang's behavior meant that he stayed away all night and disappeared without a trace. Master. Qin Benjao held Master's hand and asked worriedly, Suliang didn't come back all night. Did he encounter any danger? Tan Qinja shook her head. With Suliang's strength, he would have to be at least at the peak of dragon transformation to make him feel dangerous. And if such a rare master appeared in Tiandao sect, what would happen to Tan Qinja? It may not be felt. Furthermore, there is also the master of his own man, and his aunt is here. Tan Qinja knows her aunt's strength very well. I am afraid that there may not be anyone within a radius of thousands of miles who can catch her. Recruited. Under such safe protection, how could Suliang be in danger? Therefore, rather than encountering any danger, Tan Qinja felt that it was more likely that her man would be at her aunt's place. After all, with the character of my aunt, if she is really greedy for her man, she will definitely not let him go. But as soon as she thought about it, Tan Qinja became even more worried. My man spent the night in his aunt's room. With his aunt's character, a liang wouldn't have been eaten dry countless times. A liang must not be willing, but my aunt is so much stronger than myself that she doesn't care whether a liang is willing or not. Baiki bit her lower lip, hesitated for a moment, and then Tan Qinja said, Yao let's go, follow me to a liang's master and bring a liang back. After saying that, He pulled Qin Benjao out. Although I really don't want to face my overly naughty aunt, I still have to face it for my man. But before the two of them could leave the room, a purple-haired figure walked in from outside the room. It was Wan Qing who came forward. "No need to look for me," Wan Qing said calmly, but on that beautiful face, there was always a cold and serious look. This kind of expression may not be a problem when facing others, but to Tan Kinja, who is used to seeing her aunt's lawless appearance, there is something wrong. Thinking about it carefully, it seems that my aunt has never treated me like this before, right? Ahem. With a slight cough, Tan Kinja subconsciously took a few steps back and saluted respectfully. "Auntie, why are you here?" After finishing his words, he seemed to have thought of something and asked quickly, "Auntie, is Aoyang at your place?" "Aoyang didn't come home all night last night. Yao and I were both very worried." Hearing this, Qin Benjao on the side kept nodding her head in agreement. "Are you worried?" Wan Qing asked back, and then she scolded him harshly, "You still dare to say that you are worried about him? It's really ridiculous." "Aunt!" Tan Kinja shouted in confusion, feeling a little confused. Although her aunt was acting nonsense, she had never scolded her for no reason. What happened to her today? Snort. Wan Qing snorted lightly, ignored Tan Kinja, and continued to scold, "I don't care why you are fooling around, but why do you two involve Sul Yang? Look carefully, just because of the fighting and nonsense between the two of you these days, Sul Yang is exhausted both physically and mentally, his face is haggard, he is already losing weight day by day, and his body is about to be unable to hold on any longer. But you, however, ignored him and only focused on fighting among yourselves. It's simply reckless. Is this what you mean by worrying about him? Why do you say you are worried about him?" This. After listening to Wan Qing's words, Qin Benjao and Tan Kinja finally came to their senses, looked at each other, and both lowered their heads in shame. Indeed, in the past 2 days, the two of them had only focused on fighting each other, but they had somewhat ignored how their men. Now that I think about it, my heart is filled with guilt. You don't have to either. Wan Qing shook her head and said, "In the past few days, Sul Yang will be taken over by me. You two, please stop talking about meeting him when you've had enough trouble. Say it." Wan Qing turned around and left without giving the two of them a chance to react. It wasn't until she left the room where the two of them were that Wan Qing's expression softened. "He, robbing a man openly can even make you two so-called principals feel guilty. This kind of feeling is really unacceptable." In Wan Qing's room, Wan Qing sat on the chair, her eyes slightly drowsy, and a look of satisfaction appeared on her face. Sul Yang, on the other hand, was standing behind Wan Qing. His hands were extremely flexible, moving around Wan Qing's body, kneading and massaging Wan Qing's body. Listening to Wan Qing's story, Sul Yang said with some worry, "Master, is this too much? Sister and Benjao are just unsatisfied and just fooling around. There is no need to do this. Let's go." "Heh, what's too much?" Wan Qing shook her head, enjoying her apprentice's massage, feeling her hot and powerful hands constantly roaming her body, kneading and pressing with the most appropriate force, and felt a sense of comfort in her heart. Even some of the feelings hidden deep in my heart are about to wake up. But despite this, Wan Qing still sat upright on the chair, with her back straight and her hands in front of her, looking dignified so that no one dared to violate her. Seeing that Sul Yang was silent, Wan Qing continued to teach her step by step, "Disciple, I will teach you step by step, my master's secret skill in taming wives." "What's your secret to taming your wife?" "I would rather tame my wife." "Are you kidding?" Sul Yang couldn't help complaining, but he still said respectfully, "Yes, master, my disciple is listening." Nodding, quite satisfied with Sul Yang's attitude, Wan Qing continued, "This woman just can't be too spoiled. If you ignore them for a while, they will naturally come to your door.